What's going on, people? In this episode, we're going to be comparing Gibson versus Fender. I'm going to lanzasing now. We'll break it down, baby. Alright, thank you so much for being here once again, and remember, as usual, like, subscribe, and do all those cool little things that we like to do on YouTube so that you and I can stay in touch with each other. Anyway, today I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my thoughts about Gibson and Fender brands as an owner of their guitars. Even though I don't have many Gibsons, but having one of them and having recording tons of them and having met a lot of people that love them and watching every single YouTube video there is, I think I have a pretty strong opinion about the brands. And just to make it easy for both of us, I divided this in 5 sections. Pretty original, right?
Number 1.
It's gonna be sound. Arguably the single most important thing, right? And I think in this case, both brands have a very, very, very distinctive voice. Like when you hear Fender, it's basically synonymous of single coil sounds, right? Because even if it's like a Strat or a Tele or a Jazzmaster or a Jaguar, basically all of their guitars have been based on single coil sounds, which basically is that spanky tone with lots of high end that makes you want to play like little fast up tempo thing, more like a rhythmic guitar. Where Gibson is basically synonymous of the humbucker pickup, which is like the warm sound, that rich, syrupy tone, if you like, that is so well suited for leading. And name almost any single Gibson player, they had a great lead tone. Think about Slash, Jimmy Page, Chuck Berry, B.B. King, Lenny Kravitz, and not just them, but me being a person that has spent half of his life in a studio. Most of the times when you want to record a guitar solo or something like that, it's usually a Gibson that you're going to be using. It could be an SG, it could be an Explorer. It probably will be a Les Paul though. You know, you're looking for that sound, that's what you're going to get. So that is very, very important. Both of them have a very, very distinctive sound, and throughout their whole lineup, I don't think they have a product that actually directly competes with one another. Because yes, Fender has humbuckers in their lineup, but they don't lose that spanky Fender-ish kind of tone. Where Gibson, it's always that syrupy. I hate having to come to that tone, but I think it's just so good because when you hear what a guitar solo sounds with a Les Paul going through a Marshall, it's just very syrupy. So whoever came up with that name, yay! Really good way to call that sound. And I don't think there's anything in the lineup of Gibson, none of them has that spank that you can get in a Strat or a nice Tele, for example. So yeah, they don't really have a competition with one another. So very, very hard to say which is better. I'm just gonna say that we need them both. Number 2. I want number 2 to be ergonomics / weight and comfort, because I feel that's something very, very important, especially if it's somebody like you that plays a lot of guitar.
Because you do play a lot, right?
How many hours a day you practice? Let me know in the comment section. How many hours a day are you practicing your guitar? Anyway, I digress. So like I said, if you play a lot, you know that weight is a factor and ergonomics is a big factor. Sometimes I'm recording a couple parts, and usually when I'm in the studio, I have no clue what I'm gonna play. And then I start making the song, and the song start calling out for different parts that I've never played in my life that maybe are not even suitable to be played in a guitar. So sometimes I have to go and do super weird finger techniques and all that kind of stuff. So it's always a challenge. So it's not unheard of that I'm gonna be playing maybe an hour and a half trying to nail a couple parts. When the guitar is heavy, you start losing circulation on your leg, you start feeling like your foot start failing, and you're oh, I cannot keep playing anymore, and then you have to stand up and you lose your train of thought. But the guitar was a little bit lighter, maybe you could be playing it for longer. We all know Les Pauls are heavy, right? So I think, needless to say, Fender probably takes the cake in this. Even the slab body of a Telecaster, it's still pretty comfortable to play. And needless to say, a Stratocaster or any of these new cars, they're using in the Ultra that has all the contours in the bodies. So when you grab the guitar and you put it on you, it's very, very comfortable. Where Gibson, I feel they never really thought about ergonomics. They just wanted to make an instrument that looked stunning and that sounds incredible. So I think they nailed those two things, but it's for nobody a secret, like we said earlier, that Les Pauls are heavy. An Explorer, even heavier. They're so big and bulky too. So yeah, I don't think that was high in their priority list, how to make something ergonomically perfect or that was super comfortable to play, or maybe in a 335 or a 355. And if you own a 335 or a 355, let me know in the comment section down below. Is it
way more comfortable than any other Gibson?
I mean, it has to be lighter, so maybe that's something. Okay, point number
3.
Playability. This would probably be the second, or if you're the player, maybe the most important thing about a guitar. Certainly, I would say the thing that brands charge you the most for. Because I've been noticing that the cheaper the guitar, the thing that suffers the most is the finishing. And I don't mean like the paint job or the polishing job. I mean like how well taken care of the frets are and how well rolled the edges of the fretboard are, that kind of stuff, how good it feels to play the instrument. I've noticed that usually, for example, in Fender, the higher in the lineup it gets, the more comfortable it is. And there's a lot of people that say that basically when you get a guitar from the custom shop, basically that's what you're paying for. With, of course, great wood and everything, but I digress. And I would have to kind of agree with that. Playability, you pay a lot for that, for something that seemingly shouldn't be that important because, oh, nobody is feeling how you're feeling the guitar. But let me tell you, the better you feel, the better you play. And the easier a guitar is to play for you, the better you're going to play, the more daring you're going to be, the more adventurous you're going to be with your playing, and you're going to let your body express itself without having to think too much. And just like I saw John McLaughlin say in a Rick Beato interview, if you're thinking, you're not playing, and if you're playing, you're not thinking. So that means that you can disconnect your body and your mind and just let your body play the guitar. That is usually easier to do if the guitar is easier to play, or if the setup is really great, or overall if the playability is great. And that's why it's expensive to get a nice playing guitar. But there is something to be said about the simplicity of the setup in a Gibson. Since there's very few things that move, for example, when you have to set up a Gibson, basically you control the action of it by just moving this thing up and down. There's not really much to do other than adjust your truss rod and move your action and the tilt that you have. There's not really much to do, and there's very little to mess up. And nowadays, since Gibson is plecking all their guitars from factory, frets are not a problem, so more likely than not, you're not gonna have a bad experience with a Gibson. Where on a Fender, if you have no experience setting up a guitar and you just get this and somebody tells you, set it up, make it play nice, you're gonna have a hard time because you're gonna have not only to balance the string tension, but the tension that you have in the strings in the back. But more likely than not, you will have to do a little bit of a fret job to your guitar. Maybe even minimal, but I own 3 Strats and 2 of them need a little bit of a fret job. They both have like maybe 1 or 2 frets that are a little tall in certain sections, and they're pretty pricey instruments. So as much as I love Fender, they're dropping the ball a little bit on their frets. I wish they, for this kind of prices, they would pleck their guitars as well, right? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. I know like Sweetwater now offers the plecking for your brand new guitar for like $300, and I mean, maybe it's a good deal and stuff, and I'm sure they do a great job, but you don't want to buy a $2,000 guitar and on top of that have to pay $300, right? So yeah, we'll have to give the playability to Gibsons because I've never played a Gibson that doesn't play good, unless like, you know, somebody that doesn't really take care of them. Gibson playability takes the cake. Point number 4, longevity. Both of these brands have a lot of longevity. Like, we're still playing guitars from the 50s in both cases because there's still Strats and Tellys from 52 and 54 and 57, and they're still in great condition. Like the other day I saw Joe Bonamassa, he was sharing a picture and he had a Strat that literally looked cleaner than my Strats, and his is from like the 50s. So you're just like, wow, longevity, they have it. Both brands are gonna last you a long time, and more likely than not, you're not gonna have to do too many things. But we cannot just kid ourselves and act like
Gibsons don't break.
It's so common to see a Gibson that has a broken headstock. That might be a little bit of design, but that I would say affects a little bit of the longevity. If you break a neck, that it's a set neck, that you will have to go take it to a luthier to repair it, and that it's not gonna be a cheap process. I think you have to take some points out, where the visionary of Leo Fender, he just thought, let's just take a couple bolts right here and let's just take the neck off if it breaks. Simple. So I don't know which one is more durable, but the man covered his bases, and here we are. We still have great Fenders that play amazing from the 50s. But just talking about the actual guitars, I would say that Gibsons are a more delicate instrument. If you want to keep them like in really nice posh condition, you have to be very careful. Like for example, you cannot just put your Gibson in any stand. It has to be a nitro safe stand, because if not, it starts reacting chemically with the paint, and all of a sudden you start seeing all these pieces like peeling off or like just looking plain disgusting. And so much so that sometimes you go to the Gibson demo shop and a lot of the problems that you see is because the paint job had some kind of issue, right? There you go, Gibsons have that problem. But Fenders, if you're using like the modern poly super thick plastic paint jobs that all these Fenders have now, it's gonna look like new for a long time, right? So I would say maybe in this case, I would give longevity to Fender. And I want to take again another time to say, like I said in this video, I cannot believe that my Gibson has an inlay that just popped up. I don't know that I can show you, but this inlay right here just literally popped out. Crazy. And so now every time I'm playing, I feel the inlay trying to stop me every time I'm trying to go through that 7th fret. And then of course, when I go look it up on the internet, it turns out it's a way more common issue. Let me know if you own a Gibson that has that same issue. Luckily, it seems like it's not too hard to repair because it's such a common issue that there's a lot of videos on how to do it yourself. But man, nobody wants to have to deal with that, right? Which takes me to the 5th point, which is value. And oh boy, this is where both brands have serious issues. And I want to start by saying that maybe the smartest company, of course, for their investments and their boards and whatever, is Gibson, because they realized that people in the market were paying for used guitars a bunch of money, more than they should have been paying. And so all of a sudden, Gibson was like, oh, then why am I selling these guitars for 10 grand when I can sell them for 30 grand? And they start giving it a shot and people start buying them. So kudos to them, they're making a lot of money, but a maybe $2,000 instrument, it's now $3,200 just because they realized that people were willing to pay for it. And just like my dad used to tell me when I was a little kid, things in markets are not worth what you think they're worth. They're worth what people are willing to pay you. And there you go, Gibson is like the poster child for that, because I see them selling like $50,000 guitars, no problem. They make them, people buy them. They even make lines to buy them. So there you go. There's a lot of people with a lot of money, it seems, that are willing to pay 50 grand for a guitar. And Fender is starting to catch up, because I remember it wasn't too long ago when like master built guitars were like 8 grand, maybe 10 grand. Crazy ones like Jury Shish Cups ones with like a bunch of like gemstones and like diamonds and stuff. And yeah, those were like maybe 12 to 15 grand. But now 20 grand, no problem, easy. I mean, I understand part of it is inflation, but I feel like most of it is just the market being able to pay that kind of money for that kind of guitar. And hey, I cannot bash him for that, right? It's crazy that we have to pay the kind of prices that we're paying right now for this kind of guitars. Even think about an Epiphone or like a Mexican Fender that used to be like value propositions. Dude, just go to Sweetwater or Reverb or anything and you're gonna see like Epiphone and Mexican Fenders easily $1,300, $1,800. And I'm just like, wait. So that's a very bad omen, and I'm gonna say I'll be willing to bet a quarter that American Fenders are about to have a jump in price too. I mean, it's just reading the market, you know. If people are paying $1,300 to $1,800 for an import guitar, I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time for American Fenders to go higher. Let's not make the value and the prices just cloud our judgment, because of course, just the fact that I don't have the money doesn't mean that you don't have the money. Maybe for you it's easy to pay 50 grand for a guitar. I'm happy for you, really genuinely happy for you. But me, I'm not paying 50 grand for a guitar. Not right now. Okay, so in conclusion, I'd say that it's very, very hard to say which brand is better, but from the perspective of the player and the consumer and me as a music producer that I need guitars to get sounds, and I'm sure you do too, I feel like they both have created a great product that has been placed so perfectly in the market that at this point, they don't even need to lead in innovation or anything like that. They're just like household brands, and you know that when you need a Gibson, you're gonna go get a Gibson, and when you need a Fender, you're gonna go get a Fender. And it's amazing how they managed to not to step in each other's toes and just like stay in each other's lane. And by that, what they've achieved is that most homes and studios will have Fenders and Gibsons. Because if you need this humbucker sound, this creamy sound, this Gibson sound, you need a Gibson. And if you need this Fender sound, you need a Fender. And if you need both in one guitar, boy, you need a PRS. But anyway, I'm just talking way too much. Remember, like if you like this video, definitely subscribe, stay warm, stay safe, go to the comment section down below and let me know what you think. Other than that, I'm out, my friend.